Aliens, ghosts, the supernatural, conspiracies. A cup of coffee? Welcome to Caffeinated Conspiracies. I'm your host, Glenn.
And I'm your host, Omer. We look at the eye-opening, the crazy, the unexplained. Do we give you answers?
No. But do we shed some light on the weird and wonderful?
Also, no. But we do look at different theories, plausible solutions, and even come up with our own.
We aren't experts, ufologists, or scientists, but we are open-minded individuals and have an interest in the unknown.
So put us in your pocket, grab a coffee, and let's dive into this week's episode.
The mid-19th century. England received an influx of Irish immigrants who swelled the population of major cities, including the East End's Whitechapel. This made for prime stalking grounds for the most notorious murderer of all time. So, welcome back to Caffeinated Conspiracies. It's good that we're still going, and thank you so much for listening to all our other episodes. Remember, you can find them wherever you listen to the shows, or if you listen to any of your podcasts, you're more than welcome to join us. Oh man, let's just talk about it. How are you feeling? How much research did you do on this one?
Do you know what? I didn't start research until tonight.
Day of recording. Sounds about right, yeah.
To be quite honest. But it's one that, like, I should have started ages ago. Because it's always one that's, like, huge in pop culture, isn't it? It's used everywhere. Like, I think every famous detective to comic book character has, at some point, said, I beat Jack the Ripper. Batman did it. So I should have just read the comic books and just done them
They even
instead.
did it in Assassin's Creed. I mean, come on. It's everywhere. So, yes, we are looking at Jack the Ripper. Man, there are so many theories on this, and it's like the biggest murder mystery of all time. It's mind-boggling, the amount of information that's out there. And still to this day, in 2023, from the mid-19th century, we still don't have a definitive answer of who Jack the Ripper was. We're not going to answer the question in this one. We're not going to solve it. We're going to have our theories. But first, let's get into the main story of Jack the Ripper. So, where did your research take you?
Oh, okay. So, I got cliff notes of the years he was active. What was it? 1888 to 1891, which is the year of his last murder. Only 5 canonical victims. There's the ones that they can definitively say, this is likely him.
I've got the names of all of them.
I've got the names of all of them, because I fell down an interesting hole on that one.
Well, we are aware of the 5 confirmed, as you say, which was Mary Nichols, which was on the 31st of March, 1888, and Chapman on the 8th of September, 1888, Elizabeth Stride, the 30th of September, Catherine Eddowes, I can't even say her name properly, I may have butchered that, I do apologise, on the 30th of September, and then Mary Kelly on the 9th of November. Yeah. So, I mean, those are the ones that we know for sure were done by the Ripper.
They say for sure. That's still inconclusive, because you got to remember, at the time, there were multiple murders going around, especially the Whitechapel area, because, like, you had people coming and going through there consistently. They were prostitutes, so, like, all of them were, like, known to be beat up by their pimps.
Yeah.
For all we know.
Were they pimps in the 19th century, or did they have a different name?
They didn't go by the name of pimps, but they were the men who owned the prostitutes, basically.
All I'm going to say, anybody listening, please, if you know the answer, let us know. Come over to Instagram and put it on our Instagram on one of the pictures and let us know what were they called in the 19th century, because I think that would be so interesting to find out.
Name of 19th century pimps, that's...
So, I mean, the one thing we have got to say is, first and foremost, before we go even more into this, is when we talk about Jack the Ripper crimes, as you said, mate, we cannot establish how many there truly were. So there was obviously the Great Fire of London, and quite a lot of the evidence was lost in the fire, which I didn't know. I didn't know that until I started doing this research, and that fascinated me. It's like, wow, so all this research has gone. I mean, obviously it's the mid-19th century. It's not going to be backed up on a hard drive somewhere or on the cloud. it's gone up in smoke.
I mean,
So,
it is in a cloud.
It's in a cloud somewhere. But yeah, more than anything, it's never been solved. But every couple of years, you get somebody going, I know who Jack the Ripper was. I know who killed the prostitutes. I know what happened. Where's the proof? Show us the proof. Let's find it. But I think, well, let's go into it. Let's go into it. Going off sort of the start of Jack the Ripper's first mentions and his first kills, what did you take anything from that? Did you notice anything?
So, the thing that sort of led me down, I went down this weird rabbit hole and then found out somebody had already chased it down. So,
Am I the only one who thinking our podcast should have just been called Down the Rabbit Hole?
Because every
episode...
Wait, that'll come back
episode.
to this. That one actually loops twice in this one. So, each of them prostitutes, each of them murdered, like, all of them, everyone knows, sort of, throat slit, carotid arteries, how they died, right? Bled to death. Mm-hmm. But quite quickly, because it's the carotid. And that's where everyone assumes he's like, he was a doctor, a surgeon, a butcher, somebody who worked with meat. I mean, he was put down as, like, a strong misogynist, because he only got women and prostitutes who were poor, down on their luck, and he mostly found them when they were drunk, except the last one.
We'll go more into the each kills very soon, yeah.
Yeah, we'll go into them each. What I thought when I first saw them was like, is this like one of those TV shows you watch? Is it somebody obvious who was a part of the... So I looked at the coroners for all of them, trying to find if one was on all.
So you started your own investigation.
Yeah.
Oh, man, are you going to be releasing a book at some point this year of who really killed Jack the Ripper? Because I've just already said there's some crackpot every couple of years that releases a book about them finding Jack the Ripper. If you release one, please let me do the front cover, right? And let me do the opening front words just for the book.
Yeah, I was like, it would make sense, wouldn't it? Because the guy looking at the autopsies could easily say, oh, he was a skilled man, just appreciating his own work, thinking he's a doctor, and then realised, oh shit, I'm putting them on my trail. How about, oh no, this is just poor work. This is like, no, he's not a surgeon at all. He might be a dentist.
Could be dentist for all we know, mate. It's just trying to put a filling in.
But I think there was, from all the coroner's report, there was a couple of consistent names, but I think like two, and then for the last one, there were three different coroners used. So like, it sort of throws like, it couldn't have been one guy the whole time, because you can't lie about your work when somebody else is looking at your work.
One of the theories that we'll get into. I mean, you've definitely gone a bit deep there, haven't you? Looking at the coroners.
I literally just looked at the murders first, and then was like, is there anything obvious before I'll go down the stupid rabbit holes? But yeah, I ended up looking at the coroners and like individually. There was even the letters. We'll get to that actually. The letters was a funny one.
Well,
but yeah,
I'm going here. I do apologise. I've made a bit of a mistake at the start. The first killing was the 31st of August, whereas I've put the 31st of March in my notes. So I do apologise about that. That's my bad. But I mean, let's talk about. Let's just go back a bit further. Let's talk about Whitechapel itself at this time. It's so overcrowded. People were. I mean, you couldn't even rent a house. You could rent a bed. You didn't rent rooms, you had a bed. And those that were too poor to rent the bed could rent a room that they could stand up in and sleep in. Like literally hanging onto rope and sleeping stood up. I mean, how bad must living conditions been if that's what it was?
You got to remember, this was days before indoor plumbing as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, I've got here that it was a festering sore on the face of London. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of London already. I don't do crowds of people, it's not my thing. But just thinking about how busy it must have been and just all those people crowding in the streets. Like you say, waste literally ran through the streets. And the only way to make an earning was either by criminal activity or selling yourself. And then, obviously, from that point, that's when women took to prostitution, and that's where Jack found his first victim, which was, as we said before, it was
drunk
Friday the
poor prostitute.
31st, and the body of Ann Nichols, aged 42, was found in Bucks Row, which is now Durwald Street. Correct me if I'm wrong, I do apologise. My research has... Olmez had time to sit and do his research. Again, as I said on last week's episode, I do mine in between calls at work. So I am literally just jotting down notes on my break or anything like that I can find. But this is what gets me, is that her face was bruised, her throat was slit, almost severed to the spinal cord, the stomach was torn open, and then obviously she was acknowledged as, well, it wasn't until later she was acknowledged as the first victim. I mean, just that, like you say, you've gone down the rabbit hole of looking.
I read the coroner's report. The coroner's report says her vagina was stabbed too, and she had teeth missing.
God,
so each of the victims actually had something missing, and hers being the first one, she was the only one that I could see on any report that the vagina was stabbed. I think
we may have to put a disclaimer at the start of this episode saying do not eat whilst listening to this podcast, and make sure you've got a cold coffee. We don't want you to take a big swill and it burns your mouth in this one.
Oh yeah, no, each of the victims get worse, and then wait till you get to the letters.
Oh god. So let's move on. Then we've got the second victim, Annie Chapman, 47, was found in an alleyway. A few of her possessions lay on the floor. Similar attacks to Anne. This time, sections of her skin from her stomach was laid over her shoulders. So when you think about it, obviously people that are listening, just think where your stomach is and that skin being ripped and lifted over your shoulders.
It'd be like doing that T-shirt thing, isn't it? You know, just lifting it over your face.
Yeah. Obviously, you guys can't see, so I'm going to try and make a TikTok video of that, of Omer attempting to put the T-shirt over his face. So do follow us on TikTok to see what me and Omer look like.
Like I say, each of them had something removed. Hers was her uterus.
Oh, you've really done... I just wanted to just skim the top, you know. That was a poor choice of words, but I mean, I just sort of wanted to sort of get the basics. You've done this deep. Omer, I'm loving it, man. You know what, right? From now on, that's how we do our research. I'll get just the basics from the top. You do deep dives. There you go.
Some of them get really interesting. I think with some of the other episodes, I'm not as going to be excited about. This one was quite fun. Well, I say fun in sort of a macabre way, not fun as in, hey, it was clowns.
So many people love the story of Jack the Ripper and what happened, and I think it's that taste of mystery that you don't know who it was, and everyone tries to solve it now. The other day, I've mentioned it many times, my girlfriend, she did one of those, like the crime puzzles where you've got to solve the murder and things like that.
Oh, yeah. There's loads of them.
Let's get a Jack the Ripper one. Give her that and let them go through it and see if they can crack it.
It was Colonel Mustard in the library the whole time.
So we're going to the 28th of September here. So this is 20 days after the last killing that we were aware of. 1888, a letter, there you go, it's the first letter, received at Central News Agency, signed Jack the Ripper, threatening more murders. That's where the name stuck and become the pseudonym for the killer. So go on, you've done some research into the letters.
Oh no, there was hundreds of letters at the time, and loads of them got different theories in them. So they were some of these letters are just people wanting notoriety. A lot of these letters were attributed to media outlets just trying to sell more newspapers, because back then nothing was regulated, so you could print any lies you like.
Isn't that most newspapers now?
No, but now they've got to hold themselves accountable. Actually, online newspapers are a little different. They don't have to. They're not held to the same standards as print.
Yeah.
But print now has a lot of laws around it. But back then, it was a little more loose. So there was nothing. It wasn't strange for a newspaper to be like, "Oh, there's a murderer. I'm going to write in as the murderer to sort of propagate more news for me to sell more newspapers.
Selling more newspapers, build up the story a bit, yeah.
But yeah, there's literally hundreds of letters that had come in, and from the research that I was doing, there were technically 4, but I don't. The fourth one felt weird, so I ignored it. But 3 letters that sort of came out on the top of them, that sort of did sound like they could be from the murderer.
Right.
I think, which one was it? It was the From Hell letter, but that one came out after the murder of the third victim.
Okay.
The
So
other,
the third
the other
victim.
letters.
The
The third
third victim.
was it the third or was it? No, it wasn't the third. It was the fourth. It was Catherine Eddowes.
So the third and fourth happened on the same night.
Yeah, they're the
which
two that
was
happened really close together.
Yeah, 30th of September. It was the same night. They happened
Yeah.
within minutes of each other. Yeah. We'll go into that one in a second.
We'll go into them, but like the letters, sort of, it's better to cover them after everything because like you need to know about those two victims before the From Hell letter really like makes sense.
Yeah.
But the other letters, they were just like, it was like the theories of who he is and the letters don't fit together. So either he was really cunning with the way he wrote the letters, or the theories were wrong.
Okay.
I don't know. But yeah, like quite. I think the Dear Boss letter was like put prod at the police because it mentioned things like, "Hey, I did it. It was me. Good luck finding me. I kept a jar of the red stuff to use as ink to write the letter, but when I came to it, it was congealed. So
Yeah.
red ink will do." And it was just. It was the one of the most, and it had like some bits of poor spelling in it. So,
Yeah.
like the whole idea that he was an educated man, a doctor or something, the poor spelling throws you off. And it was consistent through the other 3 letters that
Yeah.
he had poor spelling. But you'd think
It could
if
be a way to
he's
throw
well
people off, though.
educated, yeah, that's right.
But then
He's either
again,
really well educated and wants to sound stupid in the letters, or he's not. He's not educated at all.
yeah.
Which would mean that him being high class, which is one of the things that comes up a lot,
Yeah.
is totally off.
Well, I mean, at that point when these letters were circulating and the the news released them, the streets were just put into panic. I mean, at that point, anybody could have done anything, because I see a change in the kills here. How the first couple were a bit sloppy, and then onwards, he started like getting precision and sort of knowing where to cut, what to cut, and I mean, we see it as we go through. Apart from obviously the fourth kill, which we can tell as we go through it in a
No,
second.
third kill. Third kill's the one he did in a rush because he was caught.
Wasn't it the fourth
And then
that
the
he did in
fourth
a rush?
kill. No, the third
'Cause-
one he got caught on. So somebody was coming past the area in a taxi, or a carriage, and he left that one because that's the only one where they don't know if anything got removed.
Yeah.
So it's Catherine Stride, and then it was within the hour he then
Catherine
got
Stride
Catherine.
clearly interrupted the Ripper. Yeah.
No, not Catherine. Elizabeth Stride. I'm getting the names mixed up.
Yeah, Elizabeth Stride clearly interrupted the Ripper. Her throat was slashed. The blood was still pouring from her throat when they found her.
When she was found, yeah.
Yeah, Catherine Eddowes' body was found a few minutes away. A trail of blood led to a message, and the message read, "This is where it gets." And this is the bit that baffles me now. The Jews.
That the chalk message?
Yeah, the Jews are not the men to be blamed for nothing. Right? So that's the message. But, so what happens next? For some reason, the police were ordered to remove the message, destroying evidence, basically.
It was the chalk message, and to what I was researching at the time, the fear was if they left it there, it'd start anti-Semitic riots. I mean, you're talking like, this is after World War II. The Jews are already in contention and already, escaped. They've just escaped persecution for the second time. But, like, so to stop that, they cleared the message off. That was the reasoning given. Which you can understand. Like, you don't want to be demonizing Jews again. That's because that's what's literally started World War II.
Yeah. But, I mean, looking at this, the double murder caused a lot of uproar, but also spread rumours around that this is where it comes into what you said, that the Ripper was either a mad doctor, a Polish lunatic, and this list just goes on and on and on and on, and it's still the
I read
speculation
about
that we
that
have to this
Polish
day.
lunatic. I don't like that theory.
Okay, well, we'll talk about theories very soon as we go through the rest of this. Um, but yeah, they are. More letters were received. The Ripper said he was sorry he had not been able to send ears to the police that he took from Catherine. She had a left ear severed, and he was going to send
Yeah,
it to the police.
that was the letter. So the From Hell letter was sent to the police because, like I said, each of the victims had something removed. With Catherine, not Catherine. Yeah, it was. I'm reading the victims' names wrongs again. Yeah, Catherine Eddowes, because he had more time with her than he did Elizabeth.
Yeah.
With Elizabeth Stride, she was missing bowels, but they didn't know that was because, you know, something had happened to them just when he was cutting, or he actually had time to remove them. So maybe they were misunderstood with the missing bowels. So that was more of a question. But with Catherine, her kidneys were removed. And in the From Hell letter, which was received, I can't remember how long after, it literally reads, it's a short letter, and it goes, Mr. Lusk, who was the commissioner at the time, Sir, I send you half the kidney I took from the woman, preserved it for you, together with a piece of. It's the bad spelling. It well throws me off. I took you.
I swear, folks,
from
he's not
one
illiterate. He
woman,
can read.
preserved it for you to get to the piece I fried and ate. It was very nice. I may send the bloody knife that took it out and only wait a while longer. Signed, and then it doesn't. It's a weird signature that you can't even read. And then catch me if you can, Mr. Lusk. But Mr. spelled Mishter, Mr. Lusk. It's like he got a Scottish accent at the end. But it came with the kidney preserved in wine.
Okay.
That letter with the kidney is why that letter is like the one that stands out the most, because it came with the goddamn kidney. But back then they didn't have sort of forensic science that could say test the blood to say it's the same person.
Yeah.
So it was a question if it was hers, and it was one of the things lost.
Yeah. Well, we then move on to the final kill, which we know of. And this one was brutal to say the least. So for those that are listening are a bit squeamish and you're not really ready for this, I'd just skip on a couple of seconds. But Mary Kelly, or Mary Jeanette Kelly, was the youngest recorded victim. She was only 25. She was found in a room, so he was clearly invited in because it doesn't look like there's any sort of struggle. He was clearly invited in, so it must have been somebody she knew or somebody who has paid. She was found in a room. She was found lying in the bed. Her throat was slit. Her nose was cut off. Her breasts had been cut off and placed entirely on the table. Her entrails were draped over picture frames. The body had been skinned, gutted, and her heart was missing. And as you can see the pattern that he's started off, a couple of cuts, stabbed some stuff, to peeling skin, taking kidneys and ears, and it just, to this point, getting to, I mean, looking at the human factor of this now, what goes through somebody's head that they want to do that to another human being? I understand that times were hard in 1888, but I mean, come on, surely there are other ways of entertaining yourself. That, when I read that, my stomach went when I was reading that, and I was like, I don't even know if I want to put that in the show, but we're trying to give as much factual information as we can that we found. And I don't know, did you read much on the final killing?
Oh, there was more on the final killing than anything else. It's like somebody had done a forensic recreation of the room and was saying how Like when he slit her throat, he was actually he must have been on top for one, so she must have been laying down on the bed, and then he'd cut her and turned her in a way that when the blood spread, it went up the wall and pooled on the bed and not on him. So he knew where the blood was going to go before he cut. Yeah. So it kind of tied into, yes, this is one of his killings, because obviously he's had 4 times the experience of it before.
Yeah.
And like, he wasn't, even though he did some really bad things in that room, he wasn't clearly in a rush. Because this is the first time he's done it in a closed room where he's got no worry about coming on. And clearly she's a prostitute, so they've gone up to have sex, and everyone's assuming, hey, 10 minutes before you go check that room. Yeah. So he's had ample time to sort of take things apart. But it's like, he must have done it so well, because he was in that room for a bit.
Yeah.
Right? He's had time to slit her throat, pull her apart, mutilate the body, not only wrap up the heart in a way that blood's not bleeding in places, but he's walked out of there with no one even noticing blood or anything on him.
Nope. He's hats off to him. He's,
did he go with a change of clothes?
Well. You never know. He's blended in with somebody here. Again, that's one of the theories that we have a little bit in the show. At this point, because of this murder, there was just like massive uproar and public outcry, which caused the chief of police to resign. Sir Charles Warren was the chief of police at the time, not the inspector that was doing the case, as you said before, but this was the chief of police, and he resigned. In the story of everything, that's as far as I got, because much more after that, again, is either missing or just speculation now. I don't know if you've got anything else that you want to add on to there.
Yeah, I think the only bit of evidence that survived was, I think it was Eddowes' handkerchief.
Yeah.
That's a surviving piece of artifact which has been tested twice over since.
Yeah.
Just to see whose blood shows on it. Clearly, there's descendants of Eddowes' blood on it, and then I can't remember the other dudes. Well,
we'll go more into some people that they suspected as being...
Yeah, besides, eyewitness accounts and what we know from what happened, that handkerchief is the only physical evidence that lives.
Yeah. Well, what we're going to do, we're going to go into who was suspected of some of these killings, but we're going to be right back after this break.
And welcome back to the Death Parade.
So before the break, we were we've gone through all the information in regards to the actual story of Jack the Ripper and the victims. Now let's look at some of the suspects. I know usually we have a break and we come straight into our theories, but this is there's the theories.
There's more to this one.
There's more to it. So, since the murders, loads of names have been thrown out. Got one here. You may have this as well yourself, but obviously we'll look at them together. William Henry Burr. Did you have him?
He was on my list.
It's not like a game of guess who. He was first suspected in 1889 due to the similarities in the murder of his wife. So he murdered his wife, but it was later deemed that he was not a viable suspect. Now, obviously, he was hanged.
Killed his wife poisoned?
No, somebody...
Am I mixing two up?
The wife poisoned him. We'll go into that one. That's in here as well. No, he killed his wife by slitting her throat exactly the same way. But because it looks so similar, they believed it was him. But as they've done, got into it, investigated it, turns out he'd been killed at that point. He'd been hung. So obviously that's why they sort of dropped charges on him and said it wasn't him. But to be fair, the murder stopped after the last victim that we're aware of. I
disagree. This is caffeinated conspiracies. We're going to deal with ghost stuff at some point. Maybe he did it as a ghost. Vengeful spirit.
I've also got Montague John Druitt.
Yeah, he's the one who kept popping up on mine as like top
Very
on the list.
little evidence though for this man, but it was considered by many to be the Ripper. He was the son of a medical practitioner himself, but he was also a doctor. He had no connection to Whitechapel, so the investigation was dropped. Side note I've put here, this is the bit that sort of baffled me. And when we say that the final killing was, when did we say? I don't actually have, the 19th of November. He was found dead in the River Thames, December 1888. I don't know.
The year the murders started.
The year of the murders, and he died at the end of this murdering spree in December. They found him dead.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just sort of like, that's too suspicious for my liking. This man was a doctor, and he clearly knew his way around the equipment. And I know about the spelling thing that we said, but I reckon some guy could easily play dumb. I mean, my spelling's not great in my book. I mean, no one can actually see it. Oh, man, you can see it. I've just literally rushed it.
Yeah, but you're not like a trained doctor who went through like years of medical school before.
How do you know? How do you know?
I mean, you did go through a lot of uni.
We went to school together and college together. I should remember this. I mean, before I go
low
into
English set like I was, what are you talking about?
Yeah, before I go into any more of the people that we have as suspects, have you got any? So I've done two already.
I just fully wanted to like debunk the stupid. What's his name? Kaminsky.
Yeah.
The Polish one.
Yeah.
Because that one just sounds like he was in an insane asylum, for one. For two, he was suspected because he was sexually manic or something. Like, he was very aggressive towards women and stuff.
Yeah.
And what was it? He was the one that popped up on Eddowes' scarf. The handkerchief, sorry. Yeah, so when they did the blood testing years later, it was descendants of him and Eddowes were found as particles on it. But everyone's like, oh, contamination, it's been lots of years. It could have been passed past him, you know, asking, do you recognise this?
Yeah, yeah.
But it was like, you're talking about a guy in an insane asylum who clearly stands out in a crowd. Somehow snuck around Whitechapel, killing women. And none of the women were horrified by him too, because each of the victims were killed unsuspectingly. None of them like had any shock or like trauma before killing. It's not like they were whacked over the head and then slit throat or something. So they all looked their murderer in the face. So like his was like, I don't know why he's showing up on the list. I think somebody was like bored and wanted to pin it on him. You know, like you're the inspector on the case and you're like, I just need to close this thing. Yeah, he's a psychopath. Everyone will agree with it.
Yeah. Well, the one that you said about before about the poisoning, that was James Maybrick. He was not considered at the time. It wasn't until a century after his. He was from Liverpool, and his diary was discovered in 1992. It credited for 5 of the Ripper victims as well as the other murders. There is no evidence that this diary is legit, but the story goes his wife killed him by poisoning him once she found the diary in his luggage. But I mean, he's from Liverpool, and there was no reports that he was ever in London or in Whitechapel except his diary. So until any sort of full investigation is ever done on that diary, we can't say otherwise. Now, a big suspect that has been for many years, and unfortunately was debunked a little while ago. So the main suspect, and has been, like I say, for quite some time, was Walter Richard Sickert. He was a painter, and it was claimed in DNA evidence which linked him to at least one letter was discovered. It was believed that he was also impotent after having several surgeries on his penis. Experts have always stated that Jack may have had impotency, hence his target being prostitutes. And so that's not the only thing.
None of them were flagged as sort of sexually assaulted or raped.
Yeah, but also at the same time, he was obsessed with Jack. He was obsessed with Jack the Ripper. He even rented his room, painted his room and everything There's an actual painting out there that he did of Jack's room, and this guy was obsessed. Now, could it be that he was? I know the evidence in 2019 found that Sickett was not the killer, but how good is this evidence? How? I mean, I know DNA has come on, like the way we check for DNA has come on leaps and bounds since 1888, simply put. I mean, I know a story of my foster sister getting arrested once because there was a crime in the area and they found a piece of chewing gum that she spat out 5 years prior. You know, they found the chewing gum and they got her DNA evidence off it and arrested her because it was thought that she was there. You know, and she had to prove she wasn't. So, I mean, that's just because of they found the evidence there. And I mean, it has come on massively, but what makes them give them the definitive say, no, he wasn't? But look at all the other evidence. Look at everything else. This man was obsessed with Jack the Ripper.
I mean, there's a difference between being the murderer and being a fangirl.
Yeah.
And it does sound like everything that I read about him was just like, I do agree that I think he was just like a fangirl because he didn't like women. So women getting murdered was like, yeah, somebody's got the same theories as I have. Somebody's doing what I thought I should have done. And just fangirled over him.
Yeah. Could have been it. I mean, looking
there was
at
something about his paintings, but I didn't look at any of them.
Looking at some
apparently there was some evidence in his paintings. Did you see any of them?
I've seen some of his paintings, but I've not actually looked into the research that side. I mean, looking at his paintings though, looking at all the other people who were suspected of being the Ripper, did any particular one stand out to you?
There were so many and so far, but everyone was like broken theories. Like none of them felt like they individually fit it. I actually really like Prince Albert was just the one that interested me the most.
Yes, I've got that here as well. Was it a member of the royal family?
Yeah, and I was like, that one would make sense in terms of he could have done it.
He literally could get away with murder.
Could get away with it, and why else? If you were going down that idea of the police are washing out evidence, who else would you do it for?
Yeah. Well, let's go into some of the other theories and some of our own as well. So, again, you said it at the start. Did Jack the Ripper work alone? And that's where the painter comes into it as well. And the story is, was the painter his sidekick? Did he help? Did he set them?
Batman.
Did he set them? Did he set the meets up, and then Jack turned up? You know, did he arrange it all, or was he that much obsessed that he wanted to be Jack? That maybe Jack did a couple of the kills, then this guy came along and did the more of them. That's one theory that's out there.
But then, who were you attributing to be the extra?
That's the thing, we don't know.
The actor.
The actual Ripper. We don't know. One of them I saw, and this was really interesting because of everything that had gone on. Was it the chief of police? I mean, he left. He resigned as chief of police when everything started building up and everyone started kicking off. Was it people were getting too close and he thought, I need out? I mean, I don't want to go down this route, but I'm going to mention it. Now, if anybody takes offence, I do apologise. It's nothing in particular. I'm not aiming at anybody. This is about this story more in particular. But police abuse their power. We've seen it in the news today. It's been going on for years now.
You got to imagine it, though. This is way far back when there was less oversight. So police abusing power was more common then.
Exactly.
Way more common than what we've seen today.
So that's why that theory sticks with me. Could it have been the chief of police? I mean, I don't know if he's got any motive for anything, but then again, these kills don't seem to be motivated by anything in particular. Just the fact that this guy was a misogynistic killer. He just didn't care. He hated women, clearly. You could tell he hated women. And whether it was a disgruntled ex-husband, he found his wife cheating, or his sister had become a prostitute, anything like that. Any of these stories could have been something that drove him to become this killer. Was he beaten as a child? I mean, without actually looking at the psychological profile of Jack the Ripper, we can't exactly find out why he did these kills, but we can't look at a psychological profile of him because we don't know who he is.
Don't know the inciting event.
Now, have you got any more theories or any more suspects?
So I like a few of the ideas that came along. The royal killer being Prince Albert was it made sense. It could have gotten away with it. The royals are above the police, so abuse of power is a thing. Royals today, have got away with stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not going to point anything there. The multiple killer ones is one that I really like, and I think that's the one I leaned more into because it makes more sense if it's multiple. But then the growth you see throughout the kills doesn't make sense if it's multiple people. Because you do see, first one, streets, murdered. Second one, it was, once again, in the street, somewhere quiet, he got away. When he got caught, he quickly did the other one, learnt his mistake, did a room. And that's the thing, though,
the third and the fourth, could it have been that his backup guy wasn't with him? Wasn't the lookout? Couldn't pre-warn him?
And he got away unseen.
And that's where the sloppiness came in on that third kill.
So the first one, it was a quick kill, not much removed. There was teeth missing, but they could have just got lost in the streets.
Yeah.
Second
she might not have had
one,
him in the first place,
I
don't think they had Colgate back then,
No, just brush with coal.
People do that now.
Second one, he had time to remove the uterus.
Yep.
Third one, he didn't have time to remove anything. There was assumption that the bowels may have been removed, but nothing solid. But the third one, which was done within the hour of the third, he got kidneys. And then obviously the last one, he had ample time, more time. So each time he's killed somebody, he knows how much time he's got. And he knew, when the other one got caught, if it was one guy, you could have easily been this one's been caught, everyone's going to be distracted over here. I've got time over there to do another one.
Yeah.
It's a perfect window where people are distracted. No one's looking for a murderer when they see a murder. You're looking for a guy with bloody hands. You're not looking for another victim.
Yeah.
What was the other Jill the Ripper.
That's
was
where I'm going.
That's
where I'm going next. Yes. So I've got three here. Now, these are three theories that, as I've read them, I want to sort of use them, not as my own, because I know we like to have our own balls to the wall idea, but this one's a bit more of less of a conspiracy more than anything. It is a murder story, and we can only look at who we think may have been a suspect more than anything. So yeah, Jill the Ripper is definitely one, because you are not going to bat your eyelid at a bloody midwife walking through the streets at the end of the day. I mean,
or a nurse.
Exactly, a nurse, midwife. You're not going to bat your eyes at them, because back then they had to come up to your house and literally do the work there. Hospitals were overflowing. People were sort of moonlighting and shit like that. So I mean, anything.
And you're talking Whitechapel back in the 19th century. Abortions were happening in your bedroom, not in the hospital.
Exactly. So, and who would you call for something like that? A midwife. Who would be out there thinking, I can help these women, these prostitutes that do get knocked up, I can help them. You wouldn't bat an eyelid. You wouldn't suspect a thing.
And if you think about it, because I liked it, because when you put the first 4 victims into place, and you do assume it's someone like a midwife or a nurse trying to help women, right? The first victim, stabbed in the vagina. Second one, uterus removed. Third one, didn't get time. Fourth one, kidneys. They're all that lower section. Mm-hmm. So if you're a nurse or a midwife trying to help women specifically, because doctors are men at the moment, they're doing all the surgeries on women wrong, or they're actually causing more harm when they're doing something. That's the bit you're going to want to see.
Yeah.
The
So
last
you
one,
think doing the Jill the Ripper was the fact that she was trying to learn how to do this herself to
to
help
improve
others?
science on women, because like graveyards are overflowing at this time. Like, what was it? Grave robbing was a thing, so police are watching that. It's not easy to pick up a corpse and do your surgery and testing out on there. You can't do it in the hospital because you're a woman. You're not allowed to be the doctor in the hospital. You're just there to help the man.
Yep.
So where do you learn your medical knowledge?
Yeah.
So she got better over time.
Hands-on experience, exactly. Which leads to the
Would
whole
have-
point that everything got
would have
better
the
and
equipment.
better. Have access to the equipment as well. And again, as I said, you spotted her on the street covered in blood. That's a midwife. That you wouldn't bat an eyelid.
Yeah, she's dressed like a nurse. You're like, oh,
Back
she's
then,
just going.
I mean, obviously, don't get me wrong. Now you see a midwife on the street covered in blood, you're going to be like, "What is going on? What is happening?" But
Where's the body?
back then, it was the norm. This was seen all the time. Now, I cling to that theory. I love that theory. That is one of my all-time favourites. Now, I've got two more here, which are a little bit out there. Now, this is
I have one other that's out there. I just want to know if it's one of your theories, because I read it instantly disproved itself, but it was just a fun little one that was there.
I've got an idea of what it might be. So, yeah, Lewis Carroll, the author of Alice in Wonderland, being Jack the Ripper. I mean, that, again, out there massively. And it's like, oh, look at the words in his book. Yeah, it's a children's story. That was alright. It was a bit darker than most normal children's stories. But
Not really, but at the time, a lot of children's stories were dark.
I mean, I do have a copy of Alice in Wonderland somewhere behind me in this massive sea of books, which you will see if you go to our Instagram page or Facebook page. You can see me and all these books that do not belong to me in any way, shape or form. They are my girlfriend's books. I think I have 2 books on here out of the 1,000 and something that she has, and only 2 of them are mine. All mine are in the boot of my car. But no, I like that theory. It was sort of like a little fun one, in a way.
It was, yeah, but it was like, when I was reading it, it was interesting at the beginning, then quickly disproved, because, like, the way the guy, because who was it? Oh, what was the dude's name? I put it in my notes. Richard Wallace.
Yeah.
So he was the one who called it out, but he was calling it out in the 1990s.
Yeah.
And he proved it by saying, oh, if you take these letters from his book, you can get the words, like, what was it? Friendship, real life. I can't remember what the words were. But he was like, oh, you can rearrange the words to say, look, I'm a murderer or something. And then somebody responded to him and took Winnie the Pooh and picked a random sentence, pulled a line and said, I'm Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, that's the lamest evidence. But it was just like, it was a fun like experiment, because it's like, he was alive at the time.
Yeah.
He was in the London area at the time.
Yeah.
And there were theories of him being a paedophile, because he had that close relationship with an actual girl named Alice.
Yeah.
I didn't read too much into Lewis Carroll. I don't know a lot about him. But that was sort of theories going round about him, and then tacking that on just made it like an interesting theory, but quickly disproven.
Yeah. Another theory, and it is an episode I would love to do, but much later on. You ever heard of H.H. Holmes?
That one came across my desk, because didn't History Channel do a documentary on him?
There's been quite a few documentaries.
And tying him to... It was just...
There's even an episode of Supernatural about him.
So, there's an episode about him, but I'm sure the History Channel did a documentary about him being the Ripper.
Yes. So, H.H. Holmes, for those of you that don't know, we will go into more details, we won't spoil too much, basically built a murder house and became what is known as the world's first serial killer. He basically build all these rooms and have all these walls, and he would take people into the walls and kill them and do all these different things. Now, I don't want to go too much into it, but there's the theory that there's a diary that actually claims he was in London at the time of the murders, and that is where quite a lot of big evidence does point to, which did fascinate me a little bit, because when I first watched, it was actually the series Timeless. They did an episode on H.H. Holmes, and that was where I first got my first taste of sort of this serial killer. I didn't know much about it. I'm not a big person that will listen into like these murder mystery podcasts or the serial killer stuff. They're not for me. I don't do the documentaries, but something about this man just sort of ticked my fancy. You know, it was just sort of one of those, I wouldn't mind knowing a bit more about him. And when his name came across as I was doing the research for this, I was like, oh, okay. So I looked into it a bit more, and then the more I'm looking into it, I'm thinking, we really need to do an episode on this guy, because his was, again, a big mystery. And that's what we love on this show. We love mysteries, things that have never been solved. And he says he killed all these people. One of the people that he said was killed was actually in the courtroom. So unless he had planned to kill them, and it never got round to it.
That far into him.
Exactly. There's all these mad theories behind him, and that when they believed he was dead, he wasn't actually dead, it was somebody else. But we'll go more into that into an episode if that's something you want to do, mate. We'll discuss that at a later date. But I mean, those are some of the theories that are out there, and some of my theories as well. But mine leaning more towards, more than anything, and I have done for many years now, I've told you this personally ourselves, I well and truly believe that Jack the Ripper is Jill the Ripper. More than anything, I have my heart set on that. I mean, there's probably evidence out there that'll say no, it's not, but because it has been
there's also
long,
evidence saying yes, it could be, because there was one person who saw somebody wearing, and I think it was Eddowes' scarf, like a day before, that wasn't Eddowes, and it was a woman.
Yeah.
But they couldn't identify who.
And much like every episode of our show, it's going to be one where it ends with, we don't know. We never will know. I'd love to get to the bottom of. This is one actually I would like to get to the bottom of. I'm not going to know who the person is. For all we know, it's Dave the Butcher. You know, it could have just been the guy from down the road. He just got a bit bored one winter and just thought, you know what?
I like my favourite theory, which wasn't in the list, and I thought didn't know why it wasn't. But it was the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. I mean,
so you believe Jack the Ripper is Sweeney Todd?
I think Sweeney Todd was based on Jack, because in the From Hell letter, he says, I ate the kidney. He's got Hannibal Lecter vibes going on, so why wouldn't he use the meat to feed someone else?
Are you now
why would you steal
two
kidneys?
Johnny Depp films together? Because Johnny Depp was Sweeney Todd, and he was also in the film From Hell.
Yep. I did not make that connection till now. But yes.
So there you are, people. We've solved it. Johnny Depp is Jack the Ripper.
The man is timeless. He's never died.
I mean, he's a great actor. He's a fantastic human being from what I've seen.
Who else could walk into a room and walk out and everyone just be awestruck and forget that he killed someone?
Exactly. He was having his mega pint. That's what it was.
Mega pint of wine. That's what he stored the kidney in.
There you are. He had a mega pint and he went for it. I mean, on that note, unless you've got anything else you want to say, I think, because we can't solve it. It's going to be one of those unsolvable cases. Well, we won't know. If someone ever finds the answer, this is one of the ones I would love to know. I'd love to know the truth on this one. Who was Jack the Ripper? But I suppose until we do actually find out who it was, I'm happy to leave it there.
I mean, like, just the theories that come out from it, like, they're just so much better than the truth now.
Yeah.
This is like most of these, like, I'm so much happier with some of the stuff that come out than the actual truth.
Yeah.
Like, I've got to add it on this episode. How do you know it was not aliens?
There you go. There
They
you
came
go.
in, testing, like, learning organs, like, prostitutes are drunk and no one's going to recognise them missing. Heck, at that time, pimps were already beating up prostitutes. Why not cut into a few?
There you go. So Omer believes it was aliens. I believe it was the midwife, or maybe Johnny Depp. But I think
I'm more in the Johnny Depp theory.
with Johnny Depp, right? So we're both going to say it's Johnny Depp.
Sweeney Todd.
So remember, if you have enjoyed the show, please give us a thumbs up, 5 stars on Spotify, and make sure that you basically keep listening. Tell your friends about us. Find us on anywhere that you do listen to podcasts. You can catch me and Omer every week while we do this for over the next 10 weeks. We've got season 2 planned. We've got so much lined up. We've got some great episodes coming, but we can only make these with you guys. We want you to support us, to listen to us. That's all you have to do. Don't take much. Just listen to an episode. Tell your friends. Tell us what you think. We want your input, because we make this, at the moment, this is a passion project. We're doing it because it's fun. It gives me and Omer time to catch up and see each other. But at the same time, I also teach Omer something as he goes down conspiracy theories that he never thought he'd look at. And I get to get my lights out and light up the scene. It's great.
Yeah, it's been fun.
It has. It's been a good one this week.
On the social media side, if you see any theories that we've not talked about but look like fun off-the-wall ideas, do share them. I seem to really like reading them.
Tag Omer in them. Tag him in them.
Tag me. Yeah, I will read them. We'll maybe discuss them at some point down the line. But yeah, definitely. I feel like there's more out there that I've missed that I just didn't put enough effort in. So yeah, gives me some more work to do. That sounds like...
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm out of coffee. Have we given you answers? Have we left you with more questions than you came in with?
You can let us know on all our socials. Links are in the description. But be sure to leave us a great review to please the overlords.
You can find all our episodes wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you tune in next week when we have a fresh pot of coffee, some more crazy theories. But for now, I've been Glenn.
And I've been Omer. See you next time from Caffeinated Conspiracies.